Welcome to Flourish Ventures, a series featuring one-on-one exchanges with fintech innovators around the world. My name is Emmalyn Shaw. I'm the managing partner of Flourish Ventures. We're a $500 million global fintech fund whose investments both disrupt financial services and advance financial health and drive economic resilience. Today, I'm thrilled to be discussing Jetty, the leading provider of embedded finance solutions for the American renter. And with me today, joining us in this conversation is Mike Rudoy, the co-founder and CEO of Jetty. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Well, let's just kick us off with something a little easy. Let's talk a bit about, give us a snapshot on Jetty. What is the mission and what is the focus?
Yes. So we are a financial services company built for, as you mentioned, the American renter. And we think about ourselves broadly in anything related to rental real estate in the country. Our mission is to make renting more affordable for renters. And we think we can do that through financial services that also happen to help with risk management from property on behalf of property managers as well as owner operators.
Great. So you're solving pain points for 45 million renting households in the US. Talk a little bit about what is that customer and what are some of the financial challenges they face?
So the average renter in the country is most likely living paycheck to paycheck. So between 70 to 80% of renters in the country fit that criteria. About half of the average income of that group, their income is going to rent. So this is a cost-burdened individual, most likely. So the real estate ecosystem is cut up typically into three parts: Class A, B, and C, and it definitely follows the bell curve in terms of where you find most units in the country. So we are very much focused on the average renter who happens to probably be living in Class B real estate, and that is exactly who we are trying to help. So we are trying to do that across every aspect of their experience being a renter, from the moment that they walk in the door and pay rent to and signing a lease and paying a security deposit, to the act of paying their rent every month, and then ultimately moving out and the expenses associated with that. And so we have seen different challenges occur at each of those life cycle moments. And so as a company, we started with solving the liquidity need of getting in the door and signing a lease. The largest liquidity moment for them is actually paying the first month of rent and paying a security deposit. So our product, Jetty Deposit, helps solve that, and we can get into what that, how it actually works. And then more recently, we have introduced a new product called Jetty Rent, and that actually fits deeper into the life cycle. So it's helping a renter who is cost burdened and might not be able to pay rent on time every month. And so they are hit with a late fee. It typically ends up becoming a chronic problem. And so we wanted to help solve that for them by introducing some flexibility with regard to when they have to pay rent. And so that's what Jetty Rent is designed to do.
Yeah, really cool. We're incredibly excited about this new product. Maybe give us some framing for what is the status quo? So in the absence of a Jetty Rent product, what does it look like today? And how is the Jetty Rent product actually solving some of those issues?
Yeah, so about, let's call it 20% of the country at this point is behind on rent. And part of that is due to the pandemic, but part of that is actually a chronic issue. And it ultimately results in, it sort of starts with a misalignment between when someone is paid and when rent is due. There are also different use cases, like, for example, there could be a large healthcare bill, there could be a large auto payment. Whatever the case may be, a lot of renters in this country can't make rent on the first every single month. And unfortunately, they are then hit with quite a high late fee. And that late fee could be between 8 to 10% on the first day being late, and then another $10 on average every day thereafter. And so when someone gets hit with one of those late fees, it arbitrarily just makes renting more expensive. And it's a cost that they assume every single month. And over time, that becomes too much to handle. And so it starts with chronic delinquency and might end with abandonment of the unit or with eviction. And that is the problem that we are trying to solve on behalf of property managers and owner operators. And so the way that our product works to try to solve that is for a starting price of $15 a month, we will pay the rent in full on behalf of the renter to the property manager on the first of the month. So the property manager is getting the money that they need when they need it. And we are helping solve a cash flow issue for them. For the renter, we're giving them up to 24 days within the month to pay at a cadence and a schedule that makes sense for their lifestyle and their income. And so we think that by giving them this 24 days, they don't have to get hit with that late fee. And it really helps smooth out what is now a pretty bad pretty bad misalignment between income and rent due date. Beyond everything else, we also think that it's just going to help with the relationship between residents and their property managers, which I think as you see the amenitization occurring within the broader real estate space, this is definitely an amenity that can help that relationship.
Now, really appreciate it and really exciting about where this product can go and the impact it can have on renters. You also made reference to an innovative product where actually you started, a complementary one with a Jetty Deposit. Talk a little bit about what is the value to renters and why did you decide to launch this particular offering?
The same renter has another liquidity need, which is at the start of a lease. And so in today's world, it's actually too costly to pay both a month in a security deposit as well as a month in the first month of rent. And so as a result, property managers were not seeing the leasing velocity that they wanted to because people were forced to look elsewhere. They weren't able to get into their desired apartment or home. And so what Jetty Deposit effectively allows them to do is pay a small monthly fee, and they're able to apply what they would have otherwise spent in a security deposit towards the first month of rent, thereby getting into the apartment that they want with less out-of-pocket costs. The value proposition to a property manager is actually twofold. On the one hand, they can now market a less expensive unit and drive occupancy and drive leasing velocity. But also they're able to now take a more nuanced approach to how they manage risk. So they can now get the month of security that they really wanted in the first place, but couldn't because they had to drop the deposit amount just to get people in the door. Now they can maintain the same amount of security that they think is necessary to protect their asset, while also making it less expensive for a renter to get in the door. And so that is a win-win from their perspective. They get to get the risk management solution and they get to help renters and fill units at the same time.
I mean, one thing that really excited us about Jetty and making the investment is the differentiated position that you guys have, particularly across the rental ecosystem. And that really starts with a relationship that you build with these property managers. Talk a little bit about what is that relationship and what are they looking for when they're choosing a platform?
Yeah, so everything comes down to distribution in our business. So we sell all of our products B2B2C. So we have no direct-to-consumer strategy whatsoever. All of our products are embedded within the leasing and rent payment processes that exist today. And so it's important, obviously, for the growth of our business to continue working with the largest real estate companies in the country. That could be large property managers like Greystar and Lincoln and Cushman, or it could be very large owner-operators like Cortland and LivCor or Morgan, for example. And those companies, because of the boom in prop tech, and prop tech could be any service from energy to collections to financial services to lease renewals. It doesn't matter. There are tons of businesses, more than ever, that are pitching these companies to work with them. And so from a real estate owner or property manager's perspective, it's actually too many companies to integrate. There's a very high cost and overhead to doing so. It involves a technical integration, it involves training, it involves changing the way in which they think about accounting and the processes associated with it. So despite wanting to work with all these new amazing services, they simply can't. And so they are forced to work with companies where the ROI on the effort is high. And so what we have done, which no other company has really done in financial services for real estate, is put both Jetty Deposit, Jetty Rent, and one product that we haven't talked about, Jetty Protect, which is a renter's insurance product, all on the same platform. So it makes it very easy for a renter to get underwritten once, purchase the product. They have one account to manage, but also really important to our distribution is it makes the choice of working with Jetty really easy. They basically are now able to work with one company for 3 products. And so as we think about the competitive landscape, it is very hard for those companies to compete, assuming that the distribution partner, the real estate company, has a lot of demand for 2 or 3 of the products because it just makes sense to work with us. And so that is the value of bundling everything under the same under the same roof. The last thing I'll say is all of our products can be sold nationally. So from an insurance perspective, we can operate in every state. The same goes for lending. And also it is the strength of the team. We are the company with, I would say, the most real estate DNA. We just brought on someone new to the team that we're very excited about. His name is Larry Goodman. He has been the COO at Pinnacle for the last 12 years. Pinnacle was recently acquired by Cushman to be the 3rd largest property manager in the country. And so when we think about products, we think about them through the lens of what our real estate partners will want and need. And now with Larry on the team, we have the opportunity to have someone who historically has been on the other side of the table informing those decisions.
Yeah, really exciting. Big coup for sure. When I think about where you guys are, I mean, you're one of the few fintechs that have actually integrated both kind of risk mitigating products and lending in a single platform. Are there economies to scale here, or did you have to build an entirely new business to accommodate for that as you thought about how to extend services to the renter?
Yeah, so there are 2 pieces that we built because of Jetty Deposit that we have effectively extended to allow us to distribute and build Jetty Rent. So it would have been much harder to build Jetty Rent de novo. We've actually have seen scale economies because of the fact that we sell both. And so the first is on underwriting. So the risk that we're taking with Jetty Deposit is the risk that a renter might not pay their rent or might damage a unit. And we are looking at a financial view of a renter to make that prediction. It is actually a very similar risk that we're taking for Jetty Rent. Instead of what is the propensity for a renter to not pay rent at the end of a lease, which is Jetty Deposit, with Jetty Rent, we're looking at what is the propensity for that renter to not pay rent in the middle of a lease. And so it actually comes back to the exact same model. And the more time we spend in market with both of those 2 products, we can actually tune the underwriting for both at the same time. And that underwriting asset, we call internally Jetty IQ. So for every time we get a default, for every time we get a claim, we now have a better view of renter risk, and Jetty IQ is therefore tuned. It is also through Jetty IQ that we could hypothetically launch yet another product and have a head start. The other piece that we are leveraging is the distribution. And so a good example is Cortland. Cortland is one of the largest owner-operators of real estate in the country with about 60,000 units. we started working with them on Jetty Deposit. They had a lot of demand for a flexible rent product. They looked at the different options in the market and they chose to work with us because we already had the relationship, we already had the integration, and their residents already were familiar with Jetty. So introducing a second Jetty product made a lot more sense than introducing a net new brand. And so we are leveraging the distribution that we built with Jetty Deposit to distribute Jetty Rent.
That's really helpful. Thanks, Mike. Can you talk a little bit on the tech side? So how have you invested your tech resources into the stack?
Yeah, so similar to the conversation we were having around Jetty IQ, one major differentiator that we see is thinking about underwriting. And underwriting comes down to how we think about data. And that data could come from a number of different places. The residents and members themselves, property management companies, third parties. And so we're investing a lot right now in building out the technology to support Jetty IQ and the different technology that can help us think about that risk in a more sophisticated way. The other is around how do we make it easier on ourselves and our partners to share information, but also make for a better user experience. And that comes down to integrating with property management software. And so you actually can't do business in the real estate industry unless you have those integrations. And so we have now a dedicated team to building out those integrations. And integration, while is a singular word, actually has many different components to it. And so despite the fact that we have already integrated with the largest property management software companies, we are building upon those integrations to make our life and their lives a lot easier.
Great. Look, one thing you've heard me reference, I mean, when I think about Jetty, it really is the first of its kind in the embedded finance platform specifically for the rental economy. And I'd love to just maybe spend a moment on kind of who benefits. So what are the benefits to doing this, to using these distribution channels for renters, for property managers? If you could share a little bit of that experience. And then how does that evolve over time? How does this platform take this really unique position and really incredible set of services? And how does that evolve?
Yeah. So the first is going back to our mission, being embedded within our partners' rental experience ultimately makes it easier for renters. If it wasn't for Jetty Rent being embedded within Cortland, for example, to make rent on time, it's possible that a renter would have to go out and look at other types of financing solutions, like, for example, maybe a payday loan. And so the fact that the rent can be paid on time with a click of a button and all managed within a single account just makes it easier for a renter. We also believe that we will have a much better view of that renter's risk because it is so specific to that use case, whereas let's call it a payday loan is really not looking at that individual use case. And so the pricing is so different. We can actually give them the benefit of more time for a lot less cost than if they were to look at maybe an off-the-shelf product somewhere else. But also being embedded allows us to better understand the pain points of property managers and of renters. And so that will help inform our product roadmap as we think about other problems to solve that have to do with taking on risk or liquidity and making sure that that a renter can live comfortably. That's exactly how Jetty Rent was built. It was built through a problem that we saw both sides of lease having because we were embedded through Jetty Deposit. We had a really good understanding of other problems to solve. And we're now seeing a lot of other problems to solve today. Those might be, by the way, other financial services. It also might just be financial technology that could help in maybe a little bit of a broader way. The last point I'll make here is we now have a really fast and efficient and direct way of introducing products and services to renters, which, by the way, is a major category of interest for other financial services companies and other services companies that don't have that relationship or that distribution channel built. And so by being embedded, we can now use our channel to distribute products that we never intend to build ourselves, but we very much can distribute on behalf of others to the benefit of renters.
Great. Well, look, thank you so much. It's been so exciting to sit with you and have you take the time to share the Jetty story. And I just, on behalf of the team and behalf of the audience, just wanted to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks to the Flourish team. We're so excited to be in business with you.
Wonderful. Well, to the broader audience, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys have any questions about this discussion or about our portfolio writ large, please don't hesitate to send us an email. We're at events@flourishventures.com. And with that, thank you so much and have a great day.